Indianapolis and the Indiana Annual Conference of the Methodist Church agreed to work together to start a new congregation on the south side on US 31, close to the planned Greenwood Park shopping mall. A local landowner offered to sell the property at the corner of Stop 12 and US 31 for a church, and the conference approved spending $11,760 for approximately 6 acres.
Meanwhile, in the Mississippi Conference of the Methodist Church, there was turmoil over the welcome being extended to African Americans by white pastors. Several of those pastors were encouraged to move north, and Bishop Richard Raines let it be known that all would be welcome in Indiana. Robert and Mary Jim Hunt accepted the offer, and the bishop appointed Robert to start a new church on Indianapolis' south side.
So Robert Hunt spent that first year knocking on doors in the new south side neighborhoods. And when people showed interest in a new church, Mary Jim would come along and seal the deal. On September 19, 1965, the very first worship service was held at the Baxter YMCA. A small crowd had been expected, and childcare was provided. The crowd just grew and grew and grew that first Sunday until bigger rooms had to be found. And Sunday after Sunday, the people kept coming.
On November 21st, 1965, 115 people committed to become charter members of the new church. Christ Methodist Church was born. Everyone agreed that they would be faithful in worship, faithful in a Sunday school class or small group, and faithful in serving a mission.
In 1967, construction began on the first building for the new Christ Methodist Church. The conference has supplied $128,000 in grants and loans for the new congregation. And on January 21st, 1968, Bishop Richard Raines consecrated a new facility, joining 425 people in Sunday worship.
From the beginning, Christ Church paid their apportionments back to the annual conference as an expression of gratitude for all that had been given to them and to help start more new churches in Indiana. Bishop Raines lifted up Christ Church as an example of what all new congregations could and should be doing.
In 1974, the annual conference moved Robert Hunt and his family to New Albany and sent Keith Carlisle. He stayed for 2 years, and then Jim McKinney was appointed as pastor of Christ Church. After 1968, we were officially known as Christ United Methodist Church.
In 1970, the second phase of the Christ Church building was finished, made possible by an additional conference loan of $20,000, added Sunday school classrooms and a real kitchen.
Under Reverend McKinney, several young men have committed to enter the ministry. One of them, Reverend McKinney's son, Kevin, went on to be district superintendent and is now senior pastor at Fishers United Methodist Church.
In 1980, the South Indiana Annual Conference appointed the Reverend Dr. Leon Nicholson to Christ Church. He came with a vision for revitalizing our classes through Bible study and for moving forward with a campaign to build a new sanctuary.
In 1987, ground was broken for our new sanctuary, which included new offices, choir room, and classrooms.
In 1987, the 1987 sanctuary included beautiful art glass windows portraying themes of the Holy Trinity. By 1992, a new pipe-augmented electronic organ had been installed and dedicated. Mark Montgomery became Christ Church's music director and began annual Passion Play performances that attracted many people from the community, and the church family began to grow again.
After 17 years of leading Christ Church, Dr. Leon Nicholson was looking forward to retirement. One final goal of his ministry was the construction of the new education building, named in honor of his late wife, Dr. Jean Nicholson. This building was dedicated in 1997. Dr. Leon Nicholson was followed as senior pastor by Christ Church native son and Christ Church Eagle Scout, the Reverend Chuck Burdett. He continued the programs and expanded the programs that led to unprecedented growth and participation.
2004 proved to be a dark time for Christ Church. Early in the year, Reverend Burdell left the church and United Methodist Ministry. Reverend Nicholson and Reverend Robert Hunt
In July of 2004, the Reverend David Lee was appointed to serve Christ Church. This was the first major change in leadership in over 25 years. In 2005, Mark Montgomery left Christ Church, and many families and individuals left. The finances and attendance of Christ Church were severely diminished, and steps were taken to curtail the expenditures and reduce the staff. In May 2006, longtime leader, trustee, and facilities director Mike Blake passed away while serving Christ Church.
Early in Reverend
Lee's ministry, leaders of Christ Church agreed to focus our worship ministry and mission around the three principles of greeting the risen Christ, who comes seeking us through the least and the lost, growing deeper in relationship with Jesus and with each other through small group study, and going out to offer help and hope to hurting people in the name of Christ.
The annual conference introduced a new initiative built around Bishop Richard Schnase book, The 5 Practices of a Fruitful Congregation. Christ Church began building our worship ministry and mission on these 5 principles. Chief among them was radical hospitality. We have renewed our mission program through the Faith Promise in the last 10 years, and we have raised over $250,000 for second mile mission giving. We expanded our occasional food gifts to hungry people by offering organized weekly food distribution. The next step was to move our welcome to the hungry to the front door of Christ Church.
Our hospitality was expanded to homemade coffee cakes and hot coffee offered to the hungry on Thursday morning as they come to Andrew Harvest Food Pantry. Our Stephen ministers are on hand to pray with them.
Several of our food pantry guests have joined our congregation and become active members in the Sunday school or Sunday sanctuary worship and thirst worship, and in our midweek services, Ecclesia and Andrew's Harvest morning prayer. We have celebrated baptisms and even weddings from guests who have become members of the family.
The future of Christ Church appears exciting and full of promise. It is the promise of welcoming our Savior as we welcome newcomers. It is the promise of more and more children and youth active in youth groups, in scouting units, and VBS, in our preschool, in worship, in our ministry, and in our mission.
This past summer, our mission team to Guatemala took the help and hope of Jesus to folks in greater need than anything we have ever known in serving through Andrew's Harvest, Fletcher Place, or Brightwood. Our 13 youth and adult missioners came home re-energized for the Christ Church mission of Greet, Grow, Go.
To support our mission, we continue to pay our tithe in full, continue to give an amount equal to our tithe and second mile mission giving, continue to pay down our debt, and continue to bear witness to making disciples for Jesus Christ to change the world for the good. Please stand and join us as we celebrate the hope of the next 50 years of Indianapolis Christ United Methodist Church.